The storm raged outside, lightning flashing across the dark sky, illuminating jagged cliffs and twisted trees. Alex gripped his backpack tightly, feeling the cold rain soak through his jacket. He had always been drawn to adventure, but tonight felt different. Something about the air felt heavy, almost alive, as if it was warning him to turn back. Yet he couldn't. Not when he was so close to the hidden cave that legend spoke about. The cave where the power rings were said to rest, lost for centuries. Alex took a deep breath and stepped over the slippery rocks, the roar of the thunder almost drowning out the sound of his own heartbeat. The cave entrance glowed faintly, red light flickering like embers of a fire deep within. The closer he got, the stronger the glow became, almost calling to him as if it knew he was coming. A chill ran down his spine, but he swallowed his fear, telling himself that courage was the only way forward. Inside, the cave was dark and damp, the walls slick with moisture. Strange markings covered the stone, symbols Alex had never seen before. Some looked like letters, others like tiny flames dancing across the rock. He shivered, feeling both awe and fear. Then he saw it, a pedestal in the center of a vast chamber. Glowing softly, hovering above it were 7 rings, each one different, each one alive with energy. Some shimmered blue, some glowed red, and one in the center burned with a golden light. Alex stepped closer, his breath catching in his throat. He could feel the power radiating from the rings, pulling at him, whispering to him in a language he didn't understand but somehow felt deep in his bones. He reached out, hesitating, the air around him vibrating, and suddenly the cave trembled. Cracks opening in the ground, molten lava bubbling below, smoke rising in thick clouds. The cave was alive, dangerous yet mesmerizing. He barely noticed the shadow behind him at first, a figure moving silently along the wall. Watching, waiting, a cold voice whispered, "Those rings are not yours to touch." Alex spun around, but no one was there. Only darkness and the faint flicker of red light. The voice was gone, but the warning lingered. Pressing into his mind, he shook his head, trying to focus. The rings were calling, demanding, daring him to make a choice. One ring in particular, the golden one, pulsed stronger than the others, almost like it was breathing. Alex felt his hand move on its own toward it, and as his fingers brushed the metal, a shock ran up his arm, visions flashing before his eyes, scenes of incredible power, people bowing, enemies falling, cities rising and falling with a thought. He gasped, pulling his hand back, heart racing. Could he control this? Or would it control him? Suddenly, the ground shook violently, dust falling from the ceiling, and lava erupted from the cracks, spreading quickly, heat scorching his face. Alex had to act fast. He grabbed the golden ring, and the energy from it coursed through him, bright and terrifying, giving him strength but also a sharp fear. The remaining 6 rings hovered, glowing, almost angry, as if they knew he had taken the first. He knew the cave would not forgive him for long. Alex ran toward the exit, slipping on wet stones, the lava chasing him, the shadows of the cave twisting like dark creatures. Reaching for him, the voice returned, louder this time. "Do not take them all. The power will consume you." He didn't stop, he didn't look back, only kept running. Adrenaline pushing him forward. Every step was a battle, every breath a fight against panic. Finally, he emerged from the cave into the stormy night, rain washing over him, but even outside he could feel the ring's power pulsing, whispering to him, tempting him. He had made the first choice, but he knew this was only the beginning. The other 6 rings were still in the cave, waiting, dangerous, calling, and the shadowy figure had not disappeared. He could feel its gaze burning into his back, watching, waiting, planning. Alex sank to the ground, exhausted but alert, the golden ring glowing faintly on his finger, and for the first time, he realized the full weight of what he had found. This was no ordinary treasure, no simple discovery. These rings could change the world, for good or for destruction, and the choice was his. The storm raged on, the night alive with secrets, and somewhere in the shadows, a presence moved, preparing, plotting, ensuring that Alex's journey was far from over. And as he looked back toward the cave, the red light still flickered, brighter than before, almost like it was laughing, daring him to return, to take the rest, to risk everything. The power was waiting, the choice was his, and the adventure had only just begun. Alex barely caught his breath as he stumbled through the storm-swept forest, the golden ring burning faintly on his finger, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. He could still feel the cave's heat, the shadowy presence lingering in his mind. Every step he took felt heavier, as if the ring itself was testing him, pushing him to move faster, to seek more power. He knew he had survived the first choice, But the real challenge was only beginning. The rain slowed as he approached a small clearing, and there she was, waiting, standing under a tree, calm and composed despite the storm. Her dark hair whipped by the wind, eyes sharp and knowing. She introduced herself as Leora, a guide of sorts, someone who understood the rings and their danger. "You found the first ring," she said, voice steady but warning, "and now it has found you." Alex hesitated, unsure if he could trust her, but he sensed she held knowledge he desperately needed. Leora led him to a hidden camp, a small clearing illuminated by lanterns that did not flicker in the wind. Inside, she explained the truth about the rings, the 7 ancient artifacts created long ago to give their wearer unimaginable power, but at a cost. Each ring could either grant control or bring destruction. History was littered with those who failed to resist, who were consumed by their greed, their ambition, their fear. As Alex listened, he could feel the ring pulling him, visions flashing before his eyes again, cities bending to his will, enemies crushed beneath invisible forces, but also flames, screams and faces twisted in pain. The temptation was almost unbearable. He shook his head, trying to focus. He had always believed in doing what was right, but now the ring made him wonder if right and wrong were even choices. Leora warned him, "You must not take the rest, at least not yet. The more rings you wear, the more they test you, they learn your weaknesses, they whisper your desires, and they will turn them against you." Alex's mind raced. The thought of leaving the other 6 rings behind seemed impossible. They were calling to him, a magnet pulling him forward, promising power, glory, freedom, yet hiding the danger beneath. The first night at the camp was restless. Alex could not sleep. The ring's pull kept him awake, showing visions of his future, of battles, victories, and terrible consequences. Leora watched quietly. Knowing he needed to make a choice, eventually she said, "Power always asks a question, Alex. Will you take it, or will you destroy it? Will you serve it, or will you control it? The choice is never simple, and it is never safe." The next morning, Alex awoke to a sound that froze him. Someone, or something, was moving through the forest toward the cave where the other rings remained. He could sense it, the shadowy figure from before. Stronger now, possibly one of the corrupted ring-bearers from history. Alex knew that whoever reached the rings first would either gain ultimate control or unleash destruction upon the world. He felt urgency like never before. Leora prepared him, teaching him small techniques to resist the ring's influence, to ground himself. But she also warned him that the ring wanted him to act, to seek the others. It would tempt him with illusions, with promises, with visions. Alex felt the truth in her words. The golden ring pulsed stronger, almost as if it was daring him, teasing him, whispering, "Go, take them all, become unstoppable." He clenched his fist, feeling the battle inside himself. By afternoon, Alex set out again, moving carefully through dense woods, avoiding sounds that could betray him, his senses sharper than ever. He could almost feel the lava's heat below the mountain where the cave waited, the pull of the other 6 rings stronger with every step. Leora's voice echoed in his mind. "Remember, the rings are not tools. They are tests." And he repeated the words like a mantra, trying to fight the growing desire to claim them all. As he neared the cave entrance, the shadowy figure appeared again, stepping from the mist. Cloaked and powerful, eyes glowing faintly like embers, it spoke. "You have one ring, but is one enough? Are you brave, are you wise, or are you foolish?" Alex hesitated, the golden ring vibrating violently, showing visions of what could happen if he refused or if he gave in. The air seemed alive, and the choice weighed on him like a stone. He remembered Leora's warning, remembered the faces of those who had fallen to the rings before, yet part of him ached to know the power, to feel the strength, to see what he could do if he wore them all. His heart pounded, mind racing as the figure stepped closer, the lava light from deep inside the cave reflecting off the rocks, the storm clouds above mirroring the chaos in his soul. Alex took a deep breath, hand hovering over the golden ring, feeling its warmth, its pulse, and made his first conscious choice. He would seek the other rings, but cautiously, learning, observing, resisting their whispers as best he could. The shadow figure smiled, a slow, knowing grin, and disappeared into the mist, leaving him trembling yet determined. The first step into the greater danger had been made, and as he entered the cave once more, the remaining 6 rings floated above the pedestal, glowing, alive, waiting, each one whispering promises and threats. Alex felt a thrill of fear and excitement, knowing that every choice from this moment on would test his courage, his morality, and his will. The temptation was stronger than ever, and the adventure was only growing more dangerous. Alex moved carefully through the shadowed forest, the golden ring on his finger pulsing like a heartbeat. Every step he took was guided by the whispers of the ring, and yet he tried to resist, remembering Leora's warning. The other 6 rings still waited, each one full of power and danger. He had survived the first temptation, but he knew the real challenge had only begun. As he neared the mountain where the cave entrance had disappeared behind storm clouds, Alex noticed signs of recent activity, footprints, broken branches, and faint scorch marks on the rocks. He knew someone else had been here, someone who had touched one of the rings before him. The thought made his pulse quicken. He could feel the golden ring's excitement, almost eager to find its siblings. Suddenly a figure appeared ahead, stepping out from the shadows, a young man wearing a dark cloak. His eyes glowing faintly with a golden light. Alex froze, recognizing the unmistakable aura of a ring-bearer, someone who had survived the ring's first temptation, but had not resisted entirely. This man moved with confidence, yet there was a madness in his gaze. The ring had changed him, twisted him just as Leora had warned. Alex took a cautious step forward, voice shaking slightly. I mean no harm, I only seek to understand the rings. The man's lips curled into a smile, sharp and dangerous. Understand? Foolish boy, the rings do not wait for understanding. They wait for power, and you are too weak to resist, yet strong enough to amuse me. He raised a hand and Alex felt a wave of energy wash over him. Visions of destruction, cities burning, mountains collapsing, all flashing before his eyes. The young man lunged, not to attack but to test. To measure Alex's courage, Alex dodged, heart racing, feeling the golden ring respond to the challenge. The cave behind them seemed to breathe with life, walls shifting, shadows twisting, as if the very earth wanted to test him. He realized this ring-bearer had already worn another ring, and the combination of their powers created chaos and temptation. It was a dangerous game. Alex knew he had a choice, fight or retreat, but retreating now would mean giving the other rings to this corrupted bearer. He took a deep breath and focused, grounding himself against the golden ring's pull. He moved carefully, using speed and awareness rather than raw strength. The young man laughed, energy sparks flying from his fingertips, testing Alex's reflexes, almost daring him to fail. During the fight, Alex noticed the young man's behavior was unpredictable, impulsive, almost childlike at times, yet deadly. The ring had warped his mind, mixing ambition with chaos. Alex realized that understanding the ring's influence was just as important as any skill or strength. He needed to resist to remain human while learning, observing, anticipating. Every mistake could cost him dearly. The battle took them through a hidden valley, over jagged rocks and rushing streams, and as they fought, visions of other ring-bearers from the past flickered around them, memories of greed, betrayal, and destruction. Alex could see their mistakes, hear their whispers warning him, guiding him, and he began to understand that the rings were not just tools. They were judges testing every choice, every desire, every fear. Finally, Alex managed to corner the young man on a narrow cliff, the lava pit below glowing faintly in the distance. He realized he had reached a decision point. He could fight to take the ring by force, risking everything, or he could try to negotiate, appealing to the young man's remaining humanity. His own moral compass guiding him, the ring pulsed violently, sensing his choice, urging him one way, warning him the other. Alex took a deep breath, lowering his hand slightly, voice steady. I don't want to fight you. I only want to understand, to learn. The rings can destroy us both, or make us stronger together. The young man paused, confusion flashing across his face, the corrupted energy inside him clashing with a faint memory of who he was before the ring. The tension was unbearable, every second stretching into eternity. Suddenly the cliff trembled, loose rocks falling into the abyss below. The young man reacted violently, swiping at Alex but missing, and in that instant the golden ring flared, its energy connecting with the other man's ring, a surge of power exploding between them. The young man staggered back, eyes wide with fear and awe. Alex realized the power of the rings was unpredictable, uncontrollable when two or more were in close proximity. Before Alex could act further, the ground beneath the young man cracked, the lava pit below roaring, and he fell into the fiery glow, screaming, his ring disappearing into the molten depths. Alex stared in shock, heart racing, the cave collapsing around him. He barely escaped with his golden ring, battered and shaken, but alive, and he realized the true danger of the rings and the shadowy figure waiting for him. As he stumbled out of the hidden valley, rain soaking his clothes again, Alex understood the first lesson the rings had taught him. Power was not just a gift, it was a trial, a test, a temptation, and those who failed were consumed, forgotten, or worse, twisted into something dangerous he had survived. But the adventure had only grown more dangerous, and the remaining ring still waited, glowing, alive, calling to him, daring him to continue. And as Alex looked toward the mountain where the other rings remained, the golden ring pulsed, whispering promises, threats, visions of power. He knew the next choice would be even harder, and even more dangerous. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with temptation, tests, and shadows. And Alex's journey had truly begun. Alex moved cautiously through the narrow mountain paths, the golden ring on his finger pulsing like a heartbeat, the memory of the first ring bearer still fresh in his mind. The lava pit below, hidden deep inside the mountain, called to him, glowing faintly through the mist and shadows. He knew the remaining 6 rings waited there, each one alive, each one testing him in ways he could not yet understand. The forest thinned, giving way to jagged rocks and cliffs. The wind howling like a living thing. Alex felt the golden ring's energy intensify, almost urging him forward, showing glimpses of the lava pit ahead, visions of fire and molten rock, of destruction and creation, of unimaginable power. He shook his head, trying to focus, resisting the pull, knowing that every step closer was a test, a temptation. As he descended into a hidden valley, the heat increased, thick smoke rising from fissures in the earth, the air heavy with sulfur and ash. The ground trembled beneath his feet, lava bubbling in small pools, threatening to erupt at any moment. Alex's heart pounded, each breath sharp and tense. He knew the ring was alive, watching him, testing his courage and resolve, whispering promises of control, dominance, and power. Suddenly, the shadows moved, and the familiar cloaked figure appeared, stepping silently from behind a jagged rock, eyes glowing faintly, the presence unmistakable. The shadowy figure had followed him, no doubt drawn by the golden ring, a mixture of menace and curiosity in his gaze. "You have survived the first challenges," the figure said, voice low and smooth, "but the lava pit, this is where your true trial begins." Alex tightened his grip on the ring, energy surging through him, visions flashing before his eyes, showing cities destroyed, friends lost, and enemies crushed beneath the power of the rings, yet also showing the possibility of control, of shaping the world, bending it to his will. He felt a shiver of temptation, a pull he could barely resist. The ring whispering, "Take them all, become unstoppable, master everything." The shadow figure stepped closer, energy radiating, almost tangible, and suddenly, the lava around them began to bubble violently, cracks opening wider, molten rock spilling from fissures, the mountain shaking, the trial beginning in earnest. Alex realized the challenge was not only to resist the ring's temptation, but also to survive the environment, the natural forces testing his courage and reflexes. He moved carefully, leaping across jagged rocks, feeling the golden ring guide him, almost protecting him, yet tempting him at the same time, showing flashes of other bearers who had failed here, their screams echoing in his mind. Alex's hands shook, sweat mixing with ash and rain. He knew that the lava pit was not just a physical trial, but a moral one, a test of choice and will, and every step mattered. Halfway across, Alex stopped, visions from the golden ring intensifying, showing the remaining 6 rings hovering above the lava, each one alive, calling to him, tempting him, daring him to reach out to take them all, the energy around him crackling, almost like fire dancing in the air. The shadow figure spoke again. "One wrong step, one bad choice, and it will all end. Do you have the courage to decide? Or will the rings decide for you?" Alex took a deep breath, forcing himself to focus, grounding his mind, ignoring the whispers, the flashes, the temptations. He inched forward, balancing carefully, the heat scorching his skin, the ground trembling beneath him, lava threatening to consume him at any moment. He reached a narrow ledge overlooking the main pool of molten rock, the glow reflecting in his eyes, the golden ring pulsing violently. almost alive, guiding him to the next step. Suddenly, a vision appeared, a future shaped by his choices, showing him wearing all 7 rings, standing above the world untouchable and feared, yet twisted, corrupted humanity fading. And then another vision, destroying the rings, saving lives but risking chaos in the world. Alex realized the true challenge. The rings did not only test strength, they tested morality, courage, and wisdom. He advanced to the center of the lava pit, where the remaining rings floated above a natural pedestal of obsidian, glowing, alive, pulsing in the heat, each one radiating a unique energy, calling to him, whispering secrets, threats, and promises. And Alex could feel the pull growing stronger, almost irresistible. The shadow figure watching silently from the edge, letting him face the challenge alone, the tension unbearable. Alex reached out with trembling hands, feeling the golden ring vibrate violently, each step forward echoing in the cavern like thunder. The lava bubbling furiously beneath, smoke and fire filling the air, and in that instant, he realized the choice before him was no longer about survival, but about control, destruction, and temptation. The first true test of his courage and morality. The lava pit was alive, the rings were alive, and Alex's journey had truly entered its most dangerous phase. Alex stood at the edge of the obsidian pedestal, the 6 remaining rings floating above the bubbling lava, their glow harsh and alive, the golden ring on his finger pulsing violently, whispering promises of unmatched power. He could feel the pull of the others, calling him, teasing him, daring him to reach out, each ring unique, each one testing his desires, his courage, his will. The shadow figure lingered behind, silent, watching, letting Alex wrestle with the rings alone, its presence heavy, oppressive, almost like a dark pressure on his chest. Alex felt the ring's energy inside him flare, visions of control and destruction flashing in his mind, people bowing to him, enemies falling at his command, cities rising or burning with a thought. Yet in the same flashes he saw lives lost, friends betrayed, civilizations ruined. Alex gritted his teeth, sweat running down his face, trying to resist the pull. He remembered Leora's words. The rings do not only test strength, they test who you are and who you can become. He realized that wearing all the rings might give him immense control, but it could also consume him entirely. He would lose himself, his morals, his humanity. The golden ring pulsed stronger, almost alive. It whispered his name, filling his mind with temptation. You are ready. You can control them all, bend the world, command everything. Alex shook his head, stepping back, trying to steady his breathing, yet he could feel the other rings, each like a separate voice in his mind, their energy searing into his thoughts, each testing him, testing his resolve. Suddenly, a vision appeared before him, showing the shadow figure wearing all 7 rings standing above the world, untouchable and feared, every city trembling, every life subject to its will. And Alex realized that the shadow had been waiting for someone to fail, waiting for him to make a wrong choice, to let desire overtake judgment, and he felt a chill run down his spine. Alex's hand hovered over the first of the floating rings. Trembling, unsure if he could resist, the temptation overwhelming, yet he remembered those who had fallen before, the first ring-bearer, the whispers of the lava pit, the moral weight pressing down on him, and he understood that this was more than a test of courage. It was a test of character, of choice, of self. As he hesitated, the shadow figure spoke, voice low, smooth, and dangerous. Why hesitate? Power is yours. All you must do is take it. The world can be yours. Feared or worshipped, loved or destroyed, the choice is simple. Alex felt the golden ring burn against his finger, energy coursing through him, feeding him visions of greatness and horror simultaneously, his mind struggling to separate reality from illusion. The lava around him trembled, fissures opening wider, the heat searing the air, and Alex knew that this trial was now physical as well as mental. One wrong step could send him plummeting into the molten depths. One wrong choice could destroy everything. Yet the pull of the rings was irresistible, the whispers now a chorus, tempting, threatening, daring him to act. Alex focused, taking a deep breath, closing his eyes. Trying to ground himself, he remembered Leora's guidance, the lessons about restraint and morality, and slowly, deliberately, he made a decision. He would not let the rings control him. He would resist, but he also knew he could not destroy them all yet. The energy too volatile, too dangerous. He needed a careful balance. He reached out, not to take all 6 rings at once, but to selectively control one at a time, learning, observing, resisting their temptations. The golden ring flared brightly, energy connecting with the floating rings, almost as if testing his method. And for a moment Alex felt the thrill of power, the potential to shape reality, yet the moral weight reminded him of the cost. The shadow figure let out a soft laugh, echoing through the cavern. You are strong, but strength is not enough. Will you sacrifice one for another? Will you protect someone or take them all? Alex's heart pounded. Visions of friends in danger flashed through his mind, and he realized that the next choice would not only test his control over the rings, but over his own morality, over what kind of person he wanted to be. A sudden roar shook the cavern. A rock slide from the ceiling forcing Alex to step back, the lava bubbling violently, the rings vibrating in unison, almost alive. Sensing his hesitation, and the shadow figure stepped closer, eyes glowing, energy radiating, a final test looming, and Alex understood that every choice from this moment on carried immense weight. Risk and consequence. Alex steadied himself, hand hovering above the first floating ring, heart racing, mind clear, the golden ring pulsing, whispering, the shadow figure watching, the lava pit alive, the remaining rings glowing. And he knew the next step would define not only his power but his soul. The battle between corruption and control had begun in earnest, and the journey had reached its most critical point yet. The cavern shook violently as Alex stood at the edge of the lava pit, the 6 floating rings glowing fiercely, their energy thrumming through the air, the golden ring on his finger pulsing in sync, almost alive, whispering promises, threats, and visions of power. He could feel the shadow figure approaching, every step deliberate, each one echoing like a drumbeat in the cavern. The shadow figure emerged fully from the smoke and shadows, towering, cloaked in dark energy, eyes burning like molten fire, its presence oppressive, almost suffocating. You have come far, Alex, it said, voice smooth, dangerous. But now you face the final test, the choice that will define you. The rings will not forgive hesitation, nor weakness. Are you ready to decide? Alex's hand hovered over the floating rings, heart pounding, mind racing. The visions of power flashing in his mind again, showing cities crushed, armies falling, friends betrayed, yet also glimpses of control, creation, justice, and protection. He realized the shadow figure had survived the test in a different form, perhaps corrupted by the rings entirely, and now it sought to claim the remaining power for itself. The heat of the lava pit surged, waves of molten rock spilling from fissures, the cavern shaking as if alive, the rings pulsing violently, their energy unpredictable, almost sentient. Alex could feel them testing him, challenging his courage, morality and willpower. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of temptation and warning, urging him to act, to wear them all, to dominate, to destroy. He took a deep breath, grounding himself, remembering Leora's words, the lessons about restraint and choice. He had already survived temptation, resisted corruption, yet now the stakes were higher than ever. The shadow figure circled him, energy crackling from its fingers, manipulating the lava, the cavern, the very air around them, testing Alex, pushing him toward a decision he did not fully understand. Suddenly the shadow figure lunged, its hand reaching for one of the floating rings, the air snapping with energy, the lava bubbling violently, rocks falling from above, and Alex reacted instinctively, the golden ring flaring, energy surging through his body, connecting with the other rings, creating a wave of force that repelled the shadow figure. But only for a moment. The figure laughed, voice echoing, clever, but power is never yours until it consumes you entirely. Alex realized then that this confrontation was not only physical, but mental, moral, and emotional. Every vision, every whisper, every heartbeat a test. The rings were alive, the shadow figure was alive, and he himself had to master both. He could not act recklessly. He had to choose carefully, balancing temptation with morality, courage with wisdom, power with restraint. The 6 floating rings pulsed, energy surging, the golden ring vibrating violently, almost screaming, visions of all possible outcomes flashing in Alex's mind. 3 futures standing out, each distinct and terrifying, each demanding a choice. One path promised absolute control, immense power, but the risk of corruption and loss of self. Another promised destruction, sacrifice, but preserving morality. The third offered a delicate balance, partial control, partial destruction. Yet uncertainty and danger remained. Alex's hand hovered over the rings. Trembling, the shadow figure lunged again, this time faster, stronger, energy colliding with the golden ring, sending sparks flying, rocks crumbling beneath them, and the cavern itself seemed to groan under the pressure. the decision weighing on him like a mountain, every instinct screaming at him to act, yet wisdom urging restraint, the golden ring whispered. Take them all, become unstoppable, rule everything, fear nothing. While Alex remembered Leora's voice in his mind, warning him, guiding him, reminding him that power without restraint is destruction, he realized that the final confrontation was not just with the shadow figure, but with himself, with his own desires, fears, and morality. Alex made his move hand-steadying, and chose to act deliberately, not with force but with purpose. He reached out and touched one ring at a time, testing his control, resisting temptation, and connecting their energy carefully, creating a flow, a balance. The shadow figure roared in frustration, energy clashing violently, lava splashing around them, the cavern shaking as if responding to their struggle. For a moment, time seemed to stop. Visions flashing around him, the shadow figure hovering, Alex's heartbeat pounding. And then the golden ring pulsed brightly, a wave of energy surging outward, repelling the shadow figure, forcing it back into the shadows of the cavern, yet not destroying it, leaving a lingering threat, a warning, a presence that could return. Alex stood trembling, chest heaving, surrounded by the glowing rings, victorious yet aware of the fragility of his success. He had survived the final confrontation. He had exercised restraint, morality, and courage. Yet he knew the journey was far from over. The rings were still alive, the shadow figure still watching, the lava pit still dangerous, and the choices he made next could define not only his power, but the fate of the world. As he looked at the rings floating above the lava, glowing with energy, whispering secrets and possibilities, Alex realized the final choice was not over, and the adventure, the temptation, the test of character and courage had only just reached its climax, the shadow figure's eyes glinting in the distance. A reminder that power is never without consequence, and the next step could either save or destroy everything. Whispering promises, threats, and visions of power. He could feel the shadow figure lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting, its energy heavy and threatening, and Alex knew that this final choice would define everything. Not only his fate, but the fate of the world. The cavern trembled as molten rock bubbled violently, fissures opening wider, heat scorching the air, and the rings pulsed in unison, alive, aware of the tension in Alex's mind. He could see visions of the three possible paths stretching before him, each one clear and terrifying. One path promised absolute power, wearing all the rings, commanding the world, feared and worshipped, yet risking the complete corruption of his soul. The second path showed destruction, sacrificing the rings by throwing them into the molten lava, saving himself and others from temptation, yet risking chaos in the world. The ring's energy exploding uncontrollably, reshaping reality, lives lost, cities crumbling, and unknown dangers emerging. The third path was the hardest, a partial destruction, choosing to keep some rings and destroy others. A balance between power and restraint, yet uncertainty lingered, and the shadow figure would not forgive hesitation. Alex's hand hovered above the floating rings, trembling, heart pounding, visions of the shadow figure wearing all the rings flashing before his eyes. A reminder of what could happen if he failed, yet also flashes of people saved, cities preserved, and victories won if he made the right choice. He could feel the energy of the golden ring surging through him, guiding him, tempting him, almost alive, almost speaking to him directly. The shadow figure stepped forward, energy crackling around it, voice low, smooth, and dangerous. Why hesitate? Power is yours for the taking. All you must do is claim it, rule the world, fear nothing. The choice is simple. Alex's mind raced, the temptation almost unbearable. Yet he remembered Leora's words, the lessons from the lava pit, the morality and courage he had fought to preserve. He realized that this decision was not only about power but about who he truly was. With a deep breath, Alex made his first move, reaching for one of the 6 floating rings, letting the golden ring guide him. Resisting the whispers, testing his control, he felt the energy of the rings respond, surging around him, creating a flow, a balance. The shadow figure roared, energy clashing violently, the cavern trembling, lava bubbling, yet Alex held firm, heart steady, mind clear, understanding that restraint was his greatest weapon. The first path shimmered before him, absolute power, visions of him wearing all 7 rings, commanding everything, yet twisted, corrupted. His humanity fading, Alex hesitated, sensing the danger, and decided to refuse total power, pulling back, refusing to let temptation fully consume him. The rings pulsed, whispering threats and promises, and he knew the shadow figure was watching, noting his choice, testing him still. He then reached out carefully to destroy some of the rings, tossing 3 into the molten lava, watching as they vanished, energy erupting in waves, the cavern shaking, the shadow figure screeching, furious, yet some rings remained. Controlled, restrained, pulsing gently, and Alex felt a weight lift from his mind. A small victory, yet the path was not fully safe. The shadow figure still existed. The lava still dangerous, the adventure still alive. The partial destruction left the golden ring and 2 others floating, alive but restrained. Alex realized that balance was possible yet difficult. That power could exist alongside morality if wielded carefully. The shadow figure retreated into the shadows, watching, perhaps waiting for another chance. The lava pit simmered, the energy of the ring still alive, whispering, daring him to act again. The choice loop was not over, yet Alex had made the first true step toward control without corruption. As he looked at the remaining rings, Alex understood that the adventure was never about the rings themselves, but about the choices he made, the courage, restraint, and morality he exercised, each decision shaping his future and the world's. And though the shadow figure remained a looming threat, the balance he had achieved was a testament to his resolve, the first true victory in the endless cycle of temptation, power, and consequence. And then, as Alex stepped back from the pedestal, the golden ring pulsed one last time. Brighter than before, and from the molten lava, a faint glimmer emerged, a single ring rising slowly, alive, whispering, a reminder that the loop would continue. The choice was never truly finished, and somewhere in the shadows, the adventure waited, ready to challenge him again, the world poised on the edge of destruction or salvation. And Alex, trembling yet determined, faced the future. The rings had tested him, tempted him, threatened him. Yet Alex had survived, controlled, and learned. The choice loop never ending. A cycle of power, morality, and consequence, waiting for the next decision, the next challenge, the next step into a world where every choice mattered. And every temptation was alive, pulsing, waiting.